Hi, everybody. Just a quick little insert here. We're talking about a romance novel today, and of course, romance novels and their discussions are always meant to be happy and lighthearted and give us hope in a lot of different ways. But there are a lot of people on booktube particularly who are hurting right now, and I've left links in the description box below for some Black voices here on the platform that I think we need to listen to very closely and offer support for wherever we can. So keep that in mind, and thank you for watching. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about Well Suited by Stacey Hart. This was the winner in the romance category of my TBR tournament. This is book 4 in a series featuring a group of female friends, and it is totally unnecessary to read books 1 through 3 in order to figure out what's going on in book 4. I don't think that knowing who is with who will spoil the other books. Pretty much understood in romance anyways. So hopefully by the end of this video, you're interested enough to give Well Suited a try. The story is about Theo and Catherine. Catherine is a librarian, and Theo is the twin brother of a guy who appeared and found his match in a previous book. And I believe that Catherine is like the last of the friend group to be paired off with anybody. And so when everybody gets together, Catherine is usually sans date or doesn't have a partner in crime. And one evening, conveniently, the twin brother is also asked to attend. So Theo and Catherine are kind of thrown together for that event. And there is a spark, and conditions are just right. And they are immediately attracted to each other and have what Catherine acknowledges as a one-night stand, while Theo thinks maybe this should be the beginning of a relationship. Catherine is she's not anti-love, she just doesn't believe that it exists. She's a very logical person. She believes in science. She can explain to you what chemicals there are firing inside of your brain when you're thinking you're attracted to someone or that you're in love with someone. She will be there to explain the chemistry of it and to debunk anything that you might think could be chalked up to feelings. So when their one-night stand results in an unplanned pregnancy, Catherine takes a very systematic, logical, emotion-free position on the matter with Theo and says, hey, you can be involved or you cannot be involved. It doesn't matter to me. It's up to you. Of course, Theo wants to be involved. He's not only attracted to Catherine, but he's also a really good guy. So he not only wants to be involved, he wants things to develop between the two of them, no matter how resistant to the idea Catherine may be. And the question is whether or not Catherine will begin to acknowledge the feelings that develop for the father of her child. So this romance novel was great. I mean, there's not a ton to say. Anytime that I review a romance novel, I feel like it's going to be really short and sweet, to the point. People read them because they are consistent and reliable. So if you've read one, then you know how it goes. If you've reviewed one, then you know how it goes. So instead, when you're reading a romance or when you're reviewing a romance, like, you're looking at certain aspects of the book to see how they worked and how they didn't. Not necessarily whether the overall book was a good one, a happy one. And Well Suited was great. First and foremost, I related to Catherine on a level in which I'm uncomfortable admitting. While she is a little bit of an extreme version of my personality, there are a lot of things about Catherine that I related to. And relating to your people, relating to your characters in a romance novel is to me, highly, highly important. And if you can hone in on things in the characters that are similar to those things in you, you're halfway there in enjoying the experience, because you have to like both characters enough to want them together romantically. And hands down, Catherine and I are different versions of the same person. So she is extreme, and she's extreme for the book's sake. I mean, Stacey Hart has made her that extreme because that's what she's building her story around. The fact that Catherine's not really sentimental, doesn't really believe in the attachment to people via inexplicable feelings, and never lets her feelings for somebody affect these decisions and conclusions that she's come to based on logic. For instance, she's anti-marriage. She has decided that marriage is not a legitimate expression of commitment, that it is undesirable in her eyes for every reason imaginable. And even when the reader can see her developing feelings for Theo, and even when she herself admits that she really likes their arrangement of living together, sleeping together, and having a child together, marriage is still completely and totally off the table. So even when she warms to certain aspects of their relationship, those do not affect these logical decisions that she's already made in the past for her future life. I don't give a lot of people a lot of space and a lot of slack because I like them. To me, there are things that are black and white. There are things that are correct and incorrect. And my attachments to someone do not alter those things. And I think that I'm sure there's a word for that in psychology. I'm sure that I'm not the only person who's like that. And the fact that this character in Well Suited was like that spoke to me. It did. It spoke to me. Prior to Catherine in Well Suited, the closest and most relatable character I had ever found was Stella in The Kiss Quotient. So there you have it. I can really appreciate a good guy, both in real life and in romance, now that I've had experience with a lot of bad guys in my life. So my 20-year-old self, my 25-year-old self, even my 30-year-old self may have found this book pretty boring. It's not edgy. It doesn't have the risk, the attraction to risk, or the attraction to bad boys, or the drama. It's not about that. And so as a 30-year-old, I probably would have been less happy with this book. But as a happily married woman that had 2 children with a truly good guy that is literally my best friend, like, Well Suited worked just fine for me. You know, at this stage of my life, Well Suited was really sweet and relatable and enjoyable for those reasons. I do want to highlight again the fact that this is a self-published novel, because I think that this could pass as a traditionally published work for a lot of folks. Like, it's that well done. It's well written. I mean, there's a lot of thought and effort put into the actual formatting of the paperback. This is an impressive self-published novel, and it doesn't play on any marketable trope. What I mean by that is there's a whole sector of self-published romance books that are written simply because a certain trope is on fire at that time. I feel like, and of course I don't know Stacey Hart, I can't say this with any certainty, but I feel like Stacey Hart is a more legitimate self-pubbed romance author than a lot of others out there. And it could be just me, but if you're reading romance and you're reading self-published romance, you usually get those things at Amazon. And self-published romance tend to be, I don't know how to explain this if people aren't readers, if people aren't consumers of this type of book content. But as someone who's not out there ever looking for the greatest or next greatest literary work, and am instead just reading to feel things. Are you sick of me saying that yet? I'm sick of me saying that. The inexpensive self-published romance novel on Amazon is highly consumable. It's probably 99 cents in the Kindle store. It's probably 250 pages to 300 pages. So they're cheap. You read them quickly. You experience the catharsis that you need to experience, and then you just move on. So what I'm saying is a lot of those books are also not very memorable. A lot of those books are not examples of quality editing. They're not examples of quality formatting. They're, even if the writing is good, even if the story is enjoyable, like there's just something that sets those kinds of books apart. And I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that there's no evidence of that in this book that I read by Stacey Hart. It looks like it was very well developed. It looks like, she cared very much about the quality of work that she was putting out. And so I don't want the label of self-published to turn anyone off. Instead, I would rather tell you right up front that it is self-published and encourage you to give self-published a chance if you haven't, or just give you an example of quality self-published work that does exist. It does. There are people who don't choose to be traditionally published. There are people who never try to be traditionally published. That doesn't mean that they're not great writers. And there are also people out there who can't be traditionally published, who have tried and have not succeeded. They also could be very good writers. And then there are those people who are just churning out books to make money, exploiting whatever the current and latest trend, hottest trend is. And yeah, a lot of that work's not great. So I just want to make that distinction, and I just want to encourage you to pick up Well Suited or pick up another book in this series if it sounds like something that you might enjoy. I can't say from what I read that there was something about the characters that appeared in Well Suited that makes me want to go out and buy another book in the series. I would have to read the synopses of the other books in the series to see if I'm interested in the story that the author is telling, because the characters are very low key in this book. I don't get a good sense of the uniqueness of their personality that would draw me into their story. So I would have to check out what the actual meat of the book is about. But it's not off the table. It's just something that I haven't had a chance to follow up and do yet. But now that I've liked Well Suited, I mean, Stacey Hart is definitely going to be a recognizable name for me. And when I see it, I can tell you that I'll definitely be examining or checking out what books that she's releasing. So yeah, just a cute 4-star romance, just highly enjoyable, really sweet, pretty tender. The love scenes are definitely on page, and they are semi-explicit, but not like cringeworthy or tough to handle in any way. It's a very medium. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's also not for someone who doesn't like to read about those scenes on the page. So keep that in mind. I like to give you that kind of information as well, because there are all different types of romance readers and all different types of romance novels. And hopefully I've given you a pretty good idea of where Well Suited falls and whether or not you would like to read it. If you have any questions about something that I maybe forgot to mention, don't hesitate to ask down in the comment section below, and let me know if you're likely to read Well Suited or maybe something else by Stacey Hart. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.